Do you like the video games? Do ya like the video games? Video games, video games, yeah! Ring of Red is not only a 360 feature, it's also a PlayStation 2 game. Set in the 1960s, Ring of Red takes place in an alternate timeline where Japan never surrendered during World War II. Instead, the Allied forces invaded Japan in Operation Downfall, a very real operation that would actually have been done if Japan had not surrendered to the nuclear bomb. Another important change in history is the introduction of armored fighting vehicles, or AFWs, which are basically World War II era mechs. After World War II, the Soviet Union quickly grabbed Hokkaido, effectively splitting Japan into Communist North Japan and Democratic South Japan, with Germany supplying both sides with AFWs during a 3-year struggle for control. Now in the game we play as an AFW pilot called Masami von Weizsäcker, who is sent to retrieve a new AFW that gets stolen by a North Japanese agent during the first training exercise. You take to the field controlling several different kinds of units, just like any other old strategy RPG, but instead of armor and weapons, each AFW comes equipped with a set of 3 infantry squads. Now, these infantry squads not only boost your AFW stats, but they also have various special abilities that can give you an edge over your opponent in combat. When you engage your enemies, the game switches to a real time and you have a set number of seconds to try and damage your enemy as much as possible and hopefully destroy them completely. Now here you can move your AFW back and forth to adjust for your weapon's range, and a gauge will slowly rise to mark when your guns are loaded and ready to fire. Once you go into fire mode, a targeting scope will appear on screen along with a percentage number based on your range and pilot skill. This number will slowly rise as you aim for a longer time, but if the enemy hits you before you fire, your chances to hit will decrease depending on how hard you are hit. Now this gives a certain Wild West duel feel to combat as you try to get as high numbers as possible while hoping the other person won't shoot first. You can also send in your infantry to trigger their special abilities and attack the enemy, but this will also make them vulnerable to enemy fire, and you can't command your infantry while aiming. Your AFW pilot also gains special abilities as they level up, such as dodging and instant reloading, but these can only be used a set number of times on each stage. Getting as many hits in as possible in 80 or so seconds that you have for each skirmish is the key to victory, because you only have a set number of turns on the world map to complete your objective. By taking over cities on the world map before your enemy, you can also get new infantry units who hopefully have better stats and some new skills. The cast in the game is pretty standard for an RPG. The protagonist is the typical loner who starts out being a complete jackass to everyone. Then there's this tough girl who can handle herself but is still really hot. And then there's this huge guy who is an American in this case and called John. And then there's this typical girl who turns out to be a boy. Well, that's at least pretty standard for a Japanese game. I mean, just look at Bridget or Poison or most of the anime at the moment. Well, to get back on topic, my only real problem with the game is that there's no way to skip combat animations. The clock is paused while these are performed, so there's no reason why you should be forced to watch the same animation of your soldiers running up to the enemy and throwing a grenade at them over and over again. Ring of Red is a really entertaining game, and if you like strategy RPGs, you should really check it out. The fresh take on World War II, where it's less realistic, that's really nice on top of all these realistic World War II games about the invasion in Normandy and all that shit that we had for the last 8 or so years. So check it out.